Hey, y'all, quick word. I am in my office apartment complex working, needed a change of scenery. So your girl came into like one of their little conference rooms, really cute. But I came in one of their conference rooms to work, but I wanted to release this word to you guys. I don't know if y'all remember, I released a word back in January and I said God was uprooting things. And it came from a dream that he gave me of me looking out of a window of a hotel or a motel and seeing a tornado coming towards me, right? This was in January. Okay. In that dream, I knew that I was in Katy, Texas when that tornado happened inside of that dream, right? Fast forward, I've never told you guys what city I live in. I always just say Houston, but Houston is a huge city. Texas is a huge state, but Houston is a huge city. And there are several cities within this city, right? And fast forward, in March, I found out the Lord was moving me to Katy, Texas, which is where I live now. Now, in January was when I had the dream of looking out of a hotel or motel window, seeing a tornado coming at me. I ran to the basement in the hotel or motel for safety. And I remember coming out of the basement and I had a little bit of water on me, but I was okay. And the tornado had passed, right? That was the dream. And I told you guys that the Lord is saying he's uprooting some things. So whatever was not planted on a firm foundation, like he's uprooting it, right? And I released that word to you guys. Again, when I had that dream, I had no idea God was moving me to Katy, Texas, which I live in Houston, Texas. But again, Katy is a city within Houston. Okay, and I've never told you guys what city I stay in. I always just say Houston, but now you guys know. But please don't ask me like where in Katy, all of that. Like that's my personal business. But I'm telling you guys where for a purpose. Okay, it's to get this word out. Yeah, so fast forward, I didn't know that the Lord was moving me to Katy, Texas. I had just moved, and I know I have a lot of people, my face is itching, Holy Spirit. I know I have a lot of people that are new to Bold for Christ. Welcome. But those of you that know already, I had just moved to the apartment that the Lord moved me from to move me here. I was only in that apartment for 5 months, and the Lord opened a door for me to move here without paying any termination fees of my lease or anything. I was on a 14-month lease in my last apartment. I stayed there for literally 5 months, and the Lord transitioned me here to Katy, Texas. Okay, and again, in the dream with the tornado, that's where I was, but I had no idea back in January that I would be moving to Katy, Texas. Okay, so this morning, I just allowed God to minister to me, and he began to minister to my heart that you're in the place of uprooting. Okay, even though I'm in the beginning of my promised land, I'm just entering my promised land, there is an uprooting that's getting ready to take place so that he can plant that firm foundation. There is an uprooting taking place so that he can open those blessed doors. There is an uprooting taking place so that the newness can be made manifest. There is a uprooting taking place so that God can plant. Okay? There's an uprooting taking place so that he could bless you with double. And this is not just for me, so I'm speaking to you too. He doesn't just give a prophetic dream. Some dreams will be personal just for me. This isn't one of them. Because a lot of you guys are in that season where you're in your promised land, the beginning of your promised land, as in you're walking into your promises. But it doesn't just end right there. You don't just walk into your promised land and that's it. There's still steps. The steps never end. You still keep taking steps forward. So you're entering that promised land, and the Lord is saying that there's an uprooting that's about to take place. Okay, to uproot, the definition of uproot is, hold on, I just had it up. Lord Jesus. I want y'all to hear this. The definition of uproot says to pull something out of the ground, to pull it up, to root it out, to take it out, to move someone from their home or a familiar location. To move someone from their home or a familiar location. The opposite of uproot is to plant. Okay, and you guys can look this up. The opposite of uproot, to pull out, is to plant. And God is saying there's an uprooting taking place so that he can plant you on that firm foundation. There's an uprooting taking place so that the things that have been destroyed can be restored. There's an uprooting taking place so that you can be blessed with that double. But the uprooting has to take place first. So while you may be in that promised land, yes, there's still an uprooting that's about to take place. And I'm speaking this for myself too, because the uprooting process is not always a pretty process, but God is saying you're going to be safe during this time. In that dream, when I looked out of the window and I saw the tornado coming at the hotel or motel that I was in, I went to the basement. The basement is the safest place for a person to be when a tornado is taking place. And God is saying, you're going to be safe. Nothing's going to touch you during this uprooting. But there are things around you that will be uprooted. Things and people that you are familiar with, there's going to be an uprooting, and it may be uncomfortable for you. It may even sadden some of you in some areas. And I just got to give it to you guys like the Lord spoke it to my spirit. Nothing's going to touch you, but it is going to touch your heart, because a lot of what he's uprooting are people and things that you are very familiar with. But he's uprooting in order to establish you. You are in that promised land. You have entered that promised land, but this uprooting must take place. Okay, and what he brought me back to was the story of Job. Job was in his promised land. He was in his promised land when tragedy struck. Job had money, riches, him and his daughters, his sons, he was married, like they were celebrating, like things were great. He was in his promised land. Job was a faithful servant, like the Lord had set him up. The man was rich. He had all the animals. He had his kids. He had his health. He had everything. But then an uprooting took place. But the uprooting took place so that God could plant in his life. When his uprooting happened afterwards, Job was blessed with double. People like to preach on being blessed with double after he prayed for his friends. Nah, he was blessed with double after he had to go through that uprooting process, and it was fatal for him. It didn't touch him, but it touched the people around him, which made it difficult for him to handle, because these were people he loved. These were things, people he cared about. So there was an uprooting that took place up in his life of his animals, of his health. He had boils and sores on his body, but he was okay though. So even though there was a tornado happening around him and an uprooting, one thing after the other, Job was fine. But God had to uproot in order to plant him. And when that uprooting was over and Job prayed for his friends, the ones that didn't understand it, up there thinking, oh, he must have done something wrong. No, he didn't do nothing wrong. After Job prayed for his friends, he got blessed with double. But there was an uprooting that took place first. There was an uprooting of people near and dear to him. Job didn't understand what was going on, but God had to uproot in order to plant Job on his firm, solid foundation and bless him with double. The Lord uprooted things in his life. And if you remember in the story, and we're going to read it, when he lost his kids, he lost them to a strong wind, AKA a tornado. That's what a tornado is. It's a strong wind. He lost them to a strong wind. His kids were near and dear to him, and he lost every single one of them. The most important people in his life, he lost them to the strong wind. So even though this is a good word, because the uprooting is to plant you, it's to plant me. God is about to open doors, but you will be affected by this uprooting. There's going to be an uprooting of people and things that you are familiar with, even though this strong wind will not touch you. The Lord told Satan, go ahead, do what you need to do in Job's life, but do not touch him. The Lord is saying that what's about to happen, it won't touch you, but it's going to touch things around you. And just like when I came out of that basement in the dream, I had water on me, you're still going to feel it. You're going to feel some effects from this uprooting. But God is saying the uprooting is being done to plant you. Whatever that planting you looks like, that's between you and God. But to plant you in the area that he's promised. To plant you into things that you haven't even talked about with God. The Lord didn't tell Job beforehand, I can't even talk right, beforehand that he would be blessed with double. Job didn't find this out until afterwards. And a lot of you guys, you're not going to find this out until afterwards. But he's giving you exceedingly above all that you can ask or think or imagine. But there's an uprooting about to take place. And I know this is not just for me. In a way, I'm looking like, Lord, I'm not scared, but I know that I'm going to be affected by this uprooting. And I'm going to read in Job chapter 1, verse, I'm going to start at verse 18. And this is when the messengers are coming back to back to back to tell Job that something fatal had just happened. Like it was literally one thing after another. Okay, bad news after bad news after bad news. And this is when the messenger comes to tell him about his kids. Listen to this, and I'm reading from the NIV version first. It says, while he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly, a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the four corners of the house. It collapsed on them and they are dead. And I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. That mighty wind, aka a tornado, okay, that uprooted his children and they lost their lives. I'm going to read from I believe this is KJV version. It says, and behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are all dead. Okay, that great wind, that mighty wind, it's a tornado. That's what a tornado is. It's a mighty wind that comes from usually a very dry place. And sometimes when a tornado comes, people don't have time to prepare. But God was showing me in this dream, I was safe. I was covered. I was in a hotel or motel, which symbolized a temporary place. That's how I know I'm only here temporarily in Katy, Texas, even though I just moved here. But in the dream, I ran to the basement. If you're in a city or a state that has multiple tornadoes, usually those states that are used to tornadoes, the houses are built with basements. And they're built with basements because when a tornado comes or a storm comes, the basement is the safest place to be. And that was God telling me that I'll be in his arms during this time, in the safest place. I'm protected. But when I came out of that basement, I had water on me. It wasn't a lot. I wasn't drenched, but I still felt like water on me. And that's because whatever he's about to uproot, I'm still going to feel the effects of it. Just like Job still felt the effects of losing his kids, his sons, his daughters, his animals. He still felt the effects. He had these sores on his body. He still felt the effects of it. But Satan couldn't touch him. Job was safe. He was safe. All Satan was allowed to do was to destroy what was around him. Satan couldn't touch him. So I know you guys are used to, well, I deliver all types of words, but I'm going to give it to you guys the way the Lord gave it to me. Many of you that's in that season of things being uprooted, you're going to be safe, but you still need to pray because losing your kids is hard. Job lost his kids in this uprooting. Yeah, everything was restored double. He got more kids than he had before. He got more money than he had before. He got more animals than he had before. He got double of everything he lost. He got blessed with double. But that does not mean that he didn't grieve losing his kids. He did. He still felt it. He didn't know what was happening. He was serving God. He was doing what he was supposed to do, but an uprooting took place. And for many of you, because this is not just for me, an uprooting is taking place so that a planting can take place. And God is about to plant you on some fertile ground. And things are going to happen that you have never experienced. And it's going to bless you tremendously, and not just financially, just open doors, fruit, harvest. There's a planting taking place after this uprooting, and it's way more than you ever had. But you're still going to feel the effects of this uprooting. And many, just like me, I am in my promised land. I'm where God has told me things are about to start happening here. Like, you're there, but you still have to keep walking. You don't just walk into your promised land and you're like, okay, this is it. Nah, I still have to keep walking. And there's still an uprooting that has to take place. I'm in a temporary place. Even though this is the place of where my promises are beginning, it's still, I'm in a temporary place. And I know that because the Lord had already showed me this in January. I was in a hotel or a motel in Katy. That's a temporary place. It's for just a time. So that's the word, guys. The Lord is uprooting in order to plant you. So for many, just pray, be in prayer, and ask God to give you strength for whatever you're about to see, whatever's about to happen. And these are things that the Lord has already spoken to you about. Whether it's with your family, judgment. I know I did a ton of judgment words over the course of this year that are rolling out now. So it's stuff that God has already prepared you for. Do you guys remember the fire alarms going off, and I released the word, and the Lord had told me the fire alarm means death? Like, literally, the fire alarm in my apartment would randomly go off. And the Lord spoke to me months ago. I think this was last year. He said that fire alarm means death. It wasn't death for me, but I know that things are beginning to take place. So many people don't like to give the good and the bad. I got to give whatever God gives to me. So just be in prayer. Sit with God. Let him give you more on this word. I need to get back to work. I am off starting tomorrow until next Tuesday. My birthday is on May 4th. So I'm super excited. But yeah, I'm taking off. I have a sister in Christ coming here to Texas. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to turning 36 and seeing what God has. But I know that there's an uprooting taking place, and that I also need to be in prayer for those around me and what God is doing. But he's saying he's uprooting in order to establish. He's uprooting in order to plant. And that's what was dropped on my heart this morning. And I released the word before, but I don't think it really hit me of the significance of what God was saying. So this is what he gave me today. So yeah, he's uprooting in order to establish. That's the word, y'all. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.